Good morning, world. It is I, your fabulous happy man, and today we shall walk through the woods and see what we can see. And here we go. These are a mixture of deciduous and evergreen woods. You can see here there's lots of plants. No one ever comes through here. The pine straw is exceedingly deep. Here's a piece of sycamore bark. Here's a nice vine that goes up this tree. Lots of grapevines in these woods. And in these woods are raccoons, possums, snakes, squirrels, rabbits, badgers, deer, and a little bitty honey bear too. That's a very tall pine tree that's grown in here. And like I said, the pine straw is very deep here. It was been many years since these woods have been cut, and they are just simply lovely. They're untended and au natural. And there's a nice little tree that has fallen over. That's a cedar tree. It will never rot. Of course, the a spider web. The outer, in fact, let me get me a spider stick, as no one walks in the woods without a spider stick, because the spiders aren't truly poisonous, but they are rather unpleasant. Okay. And you can see there's a plethora of undergrowth. However, it's not too thick, because the trees and the overgrowth tend to kill out the younger growth. And the pine straw, of course, inhibits all growth because of the oils in the pine straw. In fact, that's why you use pine straw as mulch in your flower beds, because it will keep weeds from growing up. But there are smaller plants that do grow, and you can see here's an old cedar tree that blew down. And here's a little woods mushroom. You can see, there it is right there. Most of these woods mushrooms are poisonous. Many of them are not. You can see there it is, and it's a pretty little guy. We'll pull him up and look at him. And he's got nice white gills, as you can see. So let us proceed onward. And this is typical of a Mississippi wooded lot. There's a hardwood tree. There's another hardwood tree. There's a hardwood tree of many years seniority. And over here is an extremely giant, very large pine tree. And pine trees grow quickly, but these oaks and cedars grow very slowly. In fact, if you see a large giant cedar tree, it is very old. But this is a big old pine tree. I'll put my hand on it for verisimilitude, and you can see that it's very large. And it goes way up. And it's a good old tree. And you can see the pine cones laying on the ground, which are the seed pods for it. And on we go. Going through the woods here. Here's a little cedar tree that fell some time ago. And you know, the heart of the cedar is that red, beautiful smelling wood that people use in their cedar chest and all. And you can see that there's some fairly deep woods. Lots of animals in here. You just can't see them. Many of the animals that live in the woods are nocturnal. Very few are diurnal. The squirrels are diurnal. But there are a plethora of nocturnal raptors, owls of all sorts, And of course the raptors like the falcons and the tercels and the hawks will tend to run more towards the evening to catch the late birds, because in the daytime the crows will run off the falcons and hawks. And here we have a little swale, S-W-A-L-E, which is just a depression in the land. Probably at one time it was a lake many years ago. And here's a rather large oaken tree. It's quite large, very old. And they don't live forever. They will die. So now we're going down into this little swale. And you can see here squirrels have been scratching for acorns. Squirrels are bad about burying acorns and then forgetting where they buried them. If we're lucky, we may see a tree where a buck has been scraping the velvet from his horns. Now here we go. This is a hickory tree, and it is called a shellbark hickory, because as you can see, or shagbark, but it's a shellbark hickory because the bark is like shags on it. And you can see it goes up, 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 and it's a nut tree. We'll see, here's some hickory nuts right here. These are hickory nuts, as you can see. And here's a natural little wash where water has been washing down through here. Lots of hickory nuts in it. And you can see here's a little burrow under this tree here. We won't mess with it because there's no telling what's in it. And it's just rude to go visit people when they don't know you're coming. And it's rude to knock on their doors. Ha 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 ha. So on we go. And you can see back up the hill we're actually falling in altitude downward. Now here's something interesting. This land just abounds with milk and honey and all the good things that you need to live. Supposedly all of the herbs, plants, and vines and roots and leaves that grow in these woods are all you need to keep you happy and healthy. And here's a rather giant large mushroom, and this is a woods mushroom, as you can see. I'll get all of that off of it. And it's pretty old. And they mostly grow on the roots of oaken trees. And many of these are not native to America. They came in as spores and fungi on wheat, plants, trees that the Europeans brought in. And they're not necessarily bad. The animals won't eat them. Animals are too smart to poison themselves, especially on natural things. Now, here's something that's interesting. And this is something of which we have a plethora. Grapevines. See, here's where it grows out, and the grapevines go up, 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 and up, and up. And they go all the way up into the trees. And the fruit of the grapevines only grow in the canopy way up top. So if you wanted to get some grapes, you'd have to climb way, 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 way up. So here's another grapevine complex. And you can see it goes right over there and right around there. And there is the root of it, but it comes up here and it goes up this tree, as you can see. See here, and it goes up, 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 and it curves around. And then it goes up into that tree, as you can see. And here's another piece of it. And when I was a child, we would swing on grapevines, and you can, believe it or not, as children, we used to take the bark of the grapevines and smoke it, and it has a really profound effect in that it is a sovereign cure for indigestion, in that it will make you vomit. But kids being kids, that's what we did, smoking grapevine. And here's some more woods mushrooms that grow. You can see these little guys are pretty. I don't generally like to touch them, but I'll pick one for our purposes. And you can see it has no skirt. It's very pretty. Has white gills. And it grows only in these woods. And here is another one. These are boletes. I'm not sure of what kind they are, but as you can see, they grow these little cups, and they're very pretty. Most of the really pretty mushrooms are, if not downright, if they're not toxic, they're just downright poisonous. But as you can see, they're very pretty. They have a very woody stem, let me see. And as you can see, like all things, they want to reproduce. And there's their reproductive organs there, those gills, as it were. And this is the one, watch this, that they call milk. Watch this, I can rub that, and watch, milk will come out. See the milk coming out? See that milk? You can score it a little bit, and it will make that milk. See that? Isn't that neat? I wouldn't drink it, because only mammals have milk. It's not really milk, it just looks like milk. And so on down when we go. These, to all my European and northern friends, are what we call greenbriers. Greenbriers, and you can see they grow from here. And they are horrible. They will grab a hold of you, and they won't quit. There's a close-up of one of them. And they're pretty long, you can see. There's my finger. And they are prolific. If we could get food crops to grow the way, and see, here's a whole nest of them. And they love to grab a hold of stuff. They keep people from walking through the woods. They're very dangerous. They're not poisonous, but if you get scratched by a greenbrier, it's got some kind of little, not fungus, but it's got some kind of oil on it that just burns like fire. And those are greenbriers. Even dogs don't like to run through them. And here is a little wash with lots of old cedar trees that have fallen over, and we'll step over it. A good rule of thumb in the woods, my friends, if you walk in the woods, don't ever step on anything that you can step over, because it might be rotten and you'll turn an ankle. It might be full of bees or wasps. It's just not a good idea to step on anything you can step over. So we shall step over that. And here's a nice little vine. Look how it goes up and 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 up into the tree. Haven't seen any squirrels because I'm making a bit of a noise, and they don't like noise. They're probably sitting up in the treetops looking at me. And here's a little wash. And here we come on the detritus of an old farm. You can see there's some hog wire, they call it. The squared wires, very old. And that looks like the brake rotor off an old car, and there's some corrugated tin. Anyhow, this is a little wash here that started. Lots of grapevines. You can see them growing up into the trees. Here's a nice old cedar tree. If you ever get lost in the woods and it's raining or wet and you want to cook a fire, you can break these dead limbs off the bottom of trees, and it's usually dry. It's called squaw wood, And you can break these dead limbs off the undersides of trees and use them to start a fire even in the wettest of weather. So there's a tip for you. And these are some nice upland deciduous mixed with evergreens, cedars, oaks, shellbark hickories, walnuts. Here's a that's what for snakes. Here's a large old hardwood of many years seniority shooting up straight up to the sky. And it has around it many of its young. Many a young tree has grown from acorns that fell from that tree and nuts, because trees want to grow. Usually now, and this is just a rule of thumb, these hairy vines are usually poisonous. The smooth vines usually aren't, but the hairy vines usually are. And you can notice how the cedar trees grow oh so straight. Oh so straight. And people love to use them for fence posts on their old farms because they were so straight and they will last forever. They hardly ever rot. They're easy to get. They're everywhere. And this is a nice little pretty stand of woods. And here comes the sun coming out to say hello to us. For without the sun, there would be no life. And I know that these woods are full of what we call bushmeat, or little critters like raccoons, because I've seen them, and snakes, because I've seen them, and all manner of wildlife, deer. Okay, here's another pretty little woods mushroom. Isn't it pretty? It's red, and it has a, let me get down there. Where is it? It has a pretty little thing, but those red ones, here we go. Now here's some scat, or as the lay people will call it, poo-poo. And you can see that this is possum because of all the seeds in it. He's been eating persimmons. You see those seeds in that scat. And he has been eating persimmons. And he's probably laying up in one of these trees asleep, because the possum is very lazy. He only does absolutely that which is required for him to survive. And he doesn't play. He doesn't run around playing little possum games. And these are some very beautiful woods, as you can see. Here's another one. And the woods are just replete with these lovely mushrooms. Oh, and they're so pretty. Isn't that pretty? But it's deadly. It'll make you sick. Most of them are not deadly poisonous, but what they are is a sovereign cure for constipation and dyspepsia, because if you eat some of them, you will have diarrhea of epic proportions, and also you will have vomitus that shan't quit. It'll keep on and on and on and on. And here's some more pretty little mushrooms. Isn't that a pretty little word? Get in there. He's a pretty little guy. We'll pick him. Oh, yes. Isn't that just pretty? And see little yellow gills. And he's so pretty. And here's another member of his family. And here's a big wood mushroom, which is an entirely different kind of mushroom. And it's pretty too, in its own kind of a creepy way. But there are so many different kinds of mushrooms here. There's some more. They're all cousins. And here, my friends, is a rare treat, an animal burrow. And here's how you can tell if you look at an animal burrow. whether something has been used recently or not. And it appears that this one has not, because you can see the leaves aren't disturbed. There's no drag marks where he's gone in and out. Sometimes you can tell what kind of critter was in it by the hairs that are hung on the limbs around it. But this is definitely a burrow. It may be a back door, but you can see, I don't want to stick my hand too far down in there, but you can indeed see that that is an animal burrow. And it's in a pretty good place. But as you see, the leaves are undisturbed here. There's no fresh footprints. But you can see, and it goes way back up in there. And that's pretty neat. Animal burrow. And the woods are full of them. Okay, now onward we shall go, on down through the woods. And people who don't live near woods, I rather pity them, because, you know, and you may look at these people who don't know any better or are from the city, will say, oh, they ain't nothing out there. But it's, oh, how wrong you are. Because the forest, or the woods as it were, is composed of the trees and the spaces between the trees. Ha ha ha. And here's another pretty mushroom. It's more of a woody type. Oh, look what I found. Oh, look, a deer skull. A deer skull. It is so rare to find one with the horns on it, because the squirrels love them. The calcium in the, ooh, I'm gonna keep that. A deer skull. One, and here's how you grade the deer. If he has a point on his antlers that's big enough to hang a ring from, then that's considered a point. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a little 6-point buck. How about that? How about that? I'm gonna keep that. Oh, that is so rare to find, because the squirrels love the antler, because antler is not bone. Antler is an epithelial cell likened unto a hair, and it's very soft, and they love to chew on it. Now then, here is another burrow. You can see nothing's been in there. And there's probably a burrow in there. And these possums love to get up in these trees. Oh, I can't believe that. I found a 6-point buck skull with the horns. That is so unusual. Because like I said, the squirrels love to eat. Ooh, and he was a young'un. He had pretty nice teeth. You can see that. And believe it or not, the size of the rack, or the antlers as it were, has nothing to do with the age of the deer. The size of the rack is dependent upon the amount of crude protein that this fellow was able to get in his lifetime. And that is truly amazing. Now here's interesting, on the other side of this tree, look at the little burrows in there. Little critters can take refuge in there and live in there, and all these pretty orange mushrooms out here. But the deer don't like the mushrooms. The deer will not eat them. In no way will they eat them, because animals are too smart to eat natural poisons. Now you can poison a deer by putting out a poison with which they are not familiar, but that is also against the law to poison wildlife in the state of Mississippi. But look at this mighty, mighty oak. Okay, there he goes. Up, 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 up. Huge. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm so excited. You almost never find, I mean, you can find skulls, but not with the antlers on them. Like I say, because the squirrels love them. They just gnaw them up. Oh, these woods are so fantastic. Just full of beautiful and wonderful things. Okay, and now we come down. I don't know if you can see, but the land falls off into what we call a draw, or a, what you may have it. And there's a nice stand of mushrooms right there. Now we'll get down into this lower bit and see slightly different plants. And maybe a little bamboo. Oh yeah, there's some bamboo. And this is bamboo. This is American bamboo. As you can see, it grows in what we call a brake. B-R-A-K-E, a brake. Oh, it's a little stream. Lots and lots of pretty little mushrooms. Yes, and this is where all the water runs to. And you can look around and find Indian arrowheads down here and all kind of stuff. But this is just a little stream, streamlet, a draw, a watershed as it were. Lots of mushrooms. It's a bit dry now, so won't be too snaky. But you can come down here in the wet weather and it is snaky. And you want to be careful and wear your knee-high rubber boots. If you've got them, you want to wear snake-proof pants. But isn't this just lovely? And these are the woods. They go on for miles and miles and miles. We'll curve around here and we'll go up here down along this little water course. It's really more of a drain than it is a water course because it doesn't have water in it all the time. It's a drain, but it's a draw drain. It's not a man-made drain. And here's a mighty giant oak tree of many years seniority. And you have to be very careful where you walk because there are animals out here that will hurt you. Snakes, badgers, believe it or not. People claim we don't have badgers in North Mississippi, but we do. I've seen them. And here is a super ancient patriarch of the woods. A mighty, mighty oak tree. Growing and growing and growing so high that one can hardly not see it. And here is a vertebra from a critter, if you can see it. How about that? So these woods are full of game, full of edible stuff. Not a lot of trash. Not a lot of, oh, here's where the little thing died. I see some more vertebrae. That's too sad. However, you can't be too sad about the life and death of these critters because they're outside the devil's bargain and they live their little lives. And whatever great spirit there is doesn't let them suffer too much. They have less of a perception of their own reality than we do. They live in the moment. Very few of them lay by or store for a winter. The bees do, the squirrels do, the beavers do, but most of these animals live hand to mouth. But they don't suffer as much as people do because, oh, a turtle. Hey, turtle. Turtle. Oh, look. It's a woods turtle. So can you see him in there? See him? He's saying, "Oh, you son of a bitch, put me down." But he's a big one. And you can tell in general the age of the turtle by counting the little lines in his carapace out from the center. And he's a sweet little turtle. He won't hurt anybody. He eats bugs and plants and worms. There he is. Hello, Mr. Turtle. You're a star. And he's a pretty big one. But he's a little box turtle. And you can eat them. They don't taste very good. But there he is. And he was just taking it easy. And I'm not going to mess with him. I won't remove him far from his stomping grounds. And as you know, turtles are reptiles. They do lay eggs. They don't roam a whole lot. There's our friend, the burrow. How about that? And these are the woods. They're very beautiful. We're lucky to live in such a wonderful place. I'll pull it in for you a little. Ooh, and go out a little. And you can actually get lost in the woods and die if you're stupid. But if you know just the least little bit about how to live, you can survive in the woods. The best way, the best way to get found if you're lost in the woods is if you know which way north and south is, head north. There's always more civilizations towards the north. If it is nighttime, sit down and wait till the sun comes up. If you can come upon running water, follow it downstream. Follow it downstream. And it will eventually come into a larger body of water, which will eventually come into a larger body of water, and you will be found. But the third way, the most effective way to be found if you're lost in the deep woods, no matter where you are, is to take off all your clothes, squat down, and have a big old bowel movement. And sure enough, somebody will walk up on you and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" And that's our trip in the woods today. I hope you learned a little and saw a lot. And I remain your fabulous happy man. Thank you very much.